It's now time to take a look at the latest business headlines. And for help with that, we're going to bring in business and markets analyst and Newsmax contributor Seth Denson. And then here in studio with us is former NASDAQ and business reporter Krysia Lenzo. Good Monday morning to you both. Let's get to those markets. So they finished the week down following the Fed's rate update. And seeing the Dow slide 100 points on Friday as the markets posted their worst week since March. This morning, futures are also down ahead of the opening bell. But before we get to those business headlines, tonight's Powerball lottery is the fourth largest in the game's history. People all across the nation, of course, are hoping that they will take home the $785 million prize pool. Krysia, Seth, good luck to you both.
We know thank you so much. I'm praying to the powers that be above. Seth, get out of the way. It's all mine.
You can have it. You can have it. I don't play it. So.
Come on, Seth. All right, guys, let's move on. So after 146 days, the Hollywood writer strike is finally coming to an end. So the WGA and the studios reaching a tentative deal last night, putting an end to that historic strike. Krysia, I'm going to start with you first. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, so this is a really big development, especially for those in the media industry who've been saying that this strike would ultimately cost some of the big media conglomerates such as Discovery $300 million in revenue. So it would cost the media companies a lot, and not to mention the writers. They've been on strike for almost 150 days now. Concerns about AI taking their spots, residual payments that were not being paid out to them. So the fact that they're able to reach this negotiation is very good, even for content later down the line. This, though, is separate from the actors' strike. The actors have been working in concert with the writers, but ultimately maybe they might also come to an agreement given what's just occurred here.
Yeah, hopefully, yes. SAG has not reached an agreement yet. But sticking with strikes, so the United Auto Workers have expanded their strike at General Motors and Stellantis. Well, there have been reports of progress when it comes to contract negotiations with Ford. Seth, talk to us about the latest on this and honestly how this will impact the American taxpayers if they get everything that they want.
Well, again, that money has to come from somewhere, right? And so what we're seeing, though, is specifically with Ford did reach a deal with the Canadian unions. And so I think that's part of what Fain's thought is that Ford, they've obviously been very, I don't want to say favorable because they're still striking at some of these Ford plants, but much more endearing to Ford of where they are at the table. Interestingly enough, though, now they're focusing in on GM and what is effectively Jeep Dodge repair plants now. So parts and repair parts, meaning it's not just going to be new cars. This is, hey, I need to get my car fixed and now I can't get parts for that. So this is really where it's going to impact the taxpayer. Alex, going back to your question, is the fact that they're not going to get access to parts. Costs are going to go up. That's just the reality when you see these strikes go on.
Yeah, Seth, I do want to follow up with you. So if they do get what they want, the strikers, could the taxpayers have to then bail them out? And could this be catastrophic for just the American consumer?
Absolutely. I mean, we don't have to go all that far back in history where we saw the taxpayers bail out the auto industry. And with what these unions are asking for, it could likely potentially bankrupt the auto industry again. Again, this is all tied together. At the end of the day, you and I, we're footing the bill for it.
Yes, exactly. I think that is the major point that I think a lot of people are missing. We are footing the bill for this. But all eyes are, of course, on the looming government shutdown, and the rumors have corporate America pleading with lawmakers in D.C. to get a deal done. Krysia, what effects could a government shutdown have on businesses all across the nation and the economy as a whole?
Well, when it comes to markets in general, they won't affect the markets that much. This bill that has not been passed, it's really shocking that people haven't come together to set forth the appropriations bills that are necessary. I mean, they've taken all the time in the world. September 30th is the deadline here. But overall, it won't affect markets or GDP that much. The last government shutdown was in 2018. The S&P 500 actually went up about 10%. So I don't want to rattle people too much here. But in this case, yes, it does raise concerns about funding and even just getting across any sorts of laws that might be in place that will affect the travel industry, the Department of Education. People are, perception-wise, this is not overall great for business.
Yeah, and that deadline.
Yeah, another thing,
coming
Alex,
close.
to think about here is, Alex, this is we just had the second downgrade of the U.S. economy in about a decade. And in large part, the downgrade was because of these back and forths, and that Congress can't get their act together and figure out how to keep the country open but running and stop raising debt. And so that's a big challenge here. And unfortunately, business owners, especially those that don't have the ability to go to the public markets and raise capital, they're concerned about this uncertainty and what it's going to mean for them going forward.
Absolutely. Great point, Seth. So finally, it was quite the weekend in Coney Island, Brooklyn, as pizza makers from around the country gather for the first ever One Bite Pizza Festival. And of course, that's related to Barstool Sports and their owner, Dave Portnoy. He put on the event to raise money for small businesses. And despite a lot of rain and some hit pieces, the crowds certainly showed up. You know, Krysia, Dave Portnoy, during 2020 and all the shutdowns, he raised a lot of money for small businesses. What did you make of this event?
I think it's great that he is helping small business with this pizza festival. As you alluded to, the Washington Post is basically set a piece for him that was a hit piece. He recorded the reporter, and he's also been an advocate for standing in between activist journalists and just general straight up reporting. And I give him credit for this, and also just being an advocate for small business all throughout the pandemic.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. We need more of him.
Absolutely. I mean, he has raised millions of dollars for these small businesses, giving it back. And of course, One Bite is all about pizza. One Bite, everybody knows the
Everyone
rules.
knows the rule.
Seth Denson, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And Krysia, we will actually see you in just a little bit. All right, up next, migrant encounters.